Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Nazira and my metric number is 286216. I will be presenting about the introduction of China's foreign policy under Chinese Communist Party. China's foreign policy under Chinese Communist Party is shaped by its unique history, culture and politics. So these are three types of reformation of the foreign policy China and the Chinese Communist Party. The first one is Mao Zedong era, the second one is Deng Xiaoping era, and the last one is Xi Jinping era. For the first one, during the Cold War, China aligned with the Soviet Union and other socialist states against the West. Its foreign policy was based on ideological struggle and anti-imperialism. For the Deng Xiaoping era, in the 1980s, China shifted towards pragmatism and reform. It adopted a more open and friendly policy towards the West and emphasized economic modernization and integration into the global economy. Last one is Xi Jinping era. In recent years, China's foreign policy has become more assertive and focused on advancing their national interests. It seeks to challenge the existing international order and promote its own vision of new world order.
Assalamualaikum in a very good day to Dr. Hafifi. My name is Kamara binti Muhammad 27. In this part, I will talk about the Chinese Communist and the Chinese Communist Party. The first foreign policy is one China policy. The one China policy is there is only one China in Taiwan. Taiwan is integral part of it. It is the official policy of the Chinese government, which is consider Taiwan as territory. It's the one China. The Chinese government does not recognize Taiwan state or allow sovereign state or allow countries with diplomatic relations with China to have official diplomatic relations with Elements that have been said in this foreign policy, including Taiwan status, which is Taiwan, which is Taiwan is thought of China to be integral part of its territory and maintains that there is only one China, with the PRC as its legitimate government. Non-recognition of Taiwan as a sovereign state. China takes any recognition or official countries relations with recognize Taiwan as a separate sovereign state. To conclude, the one China government is the Chinese government is deeply in its foreign policy framework and is consistently in official statements and diplomatic engagement. A sensitive and complex issue in international relations with different countries adopting varying position and approaches towards Taiwan and the one China. Assalamualaikum in a very good day. Secondly is non-interference and sovereignty policy. This principle shaped China's approach to its relations with other countries and its stance on global affairs. China's diplomatic strategy continues to be characterized by the dual dimension of non-interference, in which foreign policy goals are closely connected to the upkeep of China's political system. For example, we can see in the case of Sudan, China has been a major investor in Sudan since the 1990s. And it is now the country's largest trading partner. Since the start of the Darfur crisis in 2003, hundreds of thousands of people have died and millions more have been displaced. The Sudanese government has been accused of using military force against civilians in Darfur, and it has been criticized for its failure to protect civilians. China has been reluctant to criticize the Sudan government for its human rights abuse in Darfur. This is because China's non-interference policy prevents it from interfering in the internal affairs of other countries. However, Chinese economic engagement with Sudan has been seen by some as a form of interference, and it has been criticized for helping to prop up the Sudanese government. This has put China in a difficult position, and it has been forced to balance its economic interests with the human rights concern. The contradiction of China's non-interference policy in Sudan have been highlighted by the Darfur conflict. This has put China in a difficult position, and it has been forced to balance its economic interests with its human rights concern. That's all for me. I will pass it to the next presenter. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Habbi Mariam and my metric number is 277253. So in my part, I will explain about the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence. For the past 60 years, China's foreign policy has been guided by the so-called 5 principles of peaceful coexistence. These policies included equality and mutual benefit, peaceful cohabitation, mutual aggression, mutual non-interference and each other's internal affair, and mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Practically speaking, these ideas have made it possible to pursue a foreign policy that good neighborly relation refers to a stringent interpretation of non-interference in domestic matters, especially with regard to Taiwan, Tibet, and Xinjiang, with the goal of preventing external instability from negatively affecting internal friction within China. The official definition of China foreign policy is domestic political reliability, sovereign security, territorial integrity, and national unification, in addition to China's sustainable economic and social development. In this result of strategy based on the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence and motivated by several core interests, fear about externally derived threat to China's economic growth and threats to China's access to overseas resources and goods upon which its economy increasingly dependent, are the fundamental forces driving the core interests. China was eager to gain from the mistake by the former powers and the result of its own illustrious past. China is attempting to engage with other nations through its foreign policy by highlighting the advantages of working together. China places a strong focus on its own modernization experiences and views itself as a successful late developing nation that could serve as an example for others. And of course, many areas see this positively, especially in the global south and in non-liberal, non-democratic states or those with the history of colonialism. So the second policy is peaceful rise or peaceful development. Since the early 1980s, peaceful rise or peaceful development or PRD has been implicitly included into China's grand plans. It comes in 2 ways, which is first by assessing the world situation as largely peaceful and development oriented, and the other one is by indicating that China's policy will be one of peace and development to fit into it. Although there is growing discussion about whether China's essence has progressed to the point where it warrants modification or perhaps abandonment, this ideology still has a significant impact on China's foreign policy and security policy. With a major recent clarification by Dai Bingguo, PRD nevertheless continues to be in effect. In addition to being a sensible, practical strategy to cover a transitory time of China's weakness, PRD was notable. This is because for many great power grand plan, it was sophisticated enough to consider how others would likely respond to the development of China's power. The phrase of peaceful rise was briefly popular between 2003 and 2004, but it was afterward abandoned in favor of more subdued expression peaceful development, since rise seems too confrontational. It was a means of both comforting the neighbors and articulating
the connection between peace and development that was implied in Deng's first concept of reform and opening doors. PRD is an effective grand strategy. It contains some ideas regarding how the world functions and how China should interact with it, given that development is the country's top aim. It is sensitive to the image China should provide to the outside world and consider military, political, and economic factors. As a result, it offers a structure for determining China's national priorities and also a basic principle for connecting technique to goals.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nurena binti Ibrahim and my number matric is 285786 and I will present about the case study of the Belt and Road Initiative under the Chinese Communist Party. A comprehensive infrastructure project that aims to connect Asia, Europe and Africa through a massive investment in transportation and energy. The purpose of BRI is first one is the Silk Road, the historical trade route inspired the project and facilitate the exchange of the goods and culture between the East and the West. The second one is domestic economy. The goal is to create new markets and investment opportunities, boost economic growth and create jobs in China. The third one is global integration. The plan is to promote trade, infrastructure and people-to-people connection among the countries involved, improving the regional and international cooperation and stability. The investment and project that under the BRI, the first one is railway and highways. For example, from the China to Mongolia to Russia economic corridor to the Pakistan to China economic corridor. The second is port and airports in Gwadar, Pakistan and Hambantota in Sri Lanka. The third is energy and resource and the last one is digital infrastructure. However, there have been controversy and criticism surrounding the BRI. First one is the debt diplomacy, the second one is environmental risk, and the third one is human rights abuse. And we can conclude that what is the international response to the BRI? On the positive side, many development countries welcome the investment and infrastructure support from China as an opportunity to boost their own economies and achieve sustainable development. On the other side, some development countries, particularly the US and its alliance, view the BRI as a challenge to their own global influence and have raised concerns about its geopolitical implication and the security risk. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
For the conclusion, Chinese foreign policy has undergone tremendous change since the founding of the Chinese Communist Party in 1921. China's foreign policies is affected by Marxist-Leninist ideology, historical backdrop, and its changing global position in terms of principle and interests. Chinese foreign policy is based on fundamental principles that prioritize non-interference, respect for one another, and territorial integrity. These principles include peaceful cohabitation and the One China policy. This Chinese Communist Party foreign policy portrays a nation that manages its interests, objectives, and obligations on the international arena while managing its place in the world. That's all from us. Thank you.